Have you ever had a student who seemed to need clear verbal instructions for every technique, so they never really developed to the point of being able to make unique adjustments on their own to each unique moment or situation? There's so many people who prefer or even seem to need to learn by verbal instruction. But the problem is that if you spoon feed them, so to speak, these instructions too much and for too long, they'll never be comfortable with the concept of searching for unique solutions to unique challenges. Their Aikido progress and their confidence will be stunted, and their training will never be as rewarding as it could be if they were to become more independent. In today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the 4 pillars of my teaching philosophy, which is to make your classes experiential, and how to ease verbal learners into this concept. Let's discuss. Hi, my name is Leah Suzuki, and I'm the director of Aikido Kenkyukai International, USA, headquartered in Los Angeles, California. And I'm the author of the new book called The Teacher from the Aiki Dialogues collection. Welcome to my virtual dojo, where I give you tools to help you become the best teacher you can be while not having to compromise your values or miss out on your own training. Before we jump into the video content today, I want to put a resource in your hands that's free. I want to give you my teacher training checklist called The 3 Golden Rules of Teaching. It's a simple PDF guide. You can download it, print it out if you want, just keep it on your device if you want, on your phone, whatever works for you. The checklist will help you gain confidence as a teacher, reduce stress around teaching and managing your dojo, and it'll help you encourage and empower your students to increase their progress. Again, all while not having to compromise your values or sacrifice your own training. You can download it at leahsuzuki.com/golden rules. That's got a couple of dashes in it, leah-suzuki.com/golden-rules. Or just click the link in the description below this video. I hope you enjoy the gift, and I hope you take action on it. So let's talk about making your classes experiential. The biggest reasons why you should and what the benefits are. 1, your students won't simply be successfully executing a technique. They'll be figuring out how and then executing. So they'll be surprised by their own ability, and therefore they'll feel empowered. 2, they'll have a better chance of advancing to a higher level, because instead of simply memorizing techniques, they'll actually be learning principles that can be applied to various situations. 3, the class will have a meditative yet intense atmosphere, as people won't be standing and discussing. Instead, they'll be moving and feeling. 4, the learning will be deeper, on more of a subconscious level, and therefore they'll be able to access and execute these principles more quickly and smoothly in the future. So, first of all, we have to realize and accept that some people are verbal learners. I read recently that there are 7 kinds of learners. There's interpersonal, intrapersonal, kinesthetic, verbal, logical, auditory, and visual learners. So today I want to compare kinesthetic and verbal learners, or learning. I recommend developing your teaching style for kinesthetic learners, because that's the style of teaching that'll benefit the greater dojo community in your dojo the best in the long run. But if you have a new person in your dojo and they're a verbal learner, you'll need to give them a warning before you start the class. At least that's what I do. I didn't used to do that before, but I've had great success now with giving them kind of a warning. So what I do now, whenever a new person steps into my dojo, first of all, they get all these notifications ahead of time to get there 30 minutes early. So that usually gets the new student there 20 minutes early. All right. So at this point, I've usually texted them or communicated in some way, asking them if they have any limitations that I should know about. And that wording gives them a chance to tell me either, yeah, my right knee hurts because I was in an accident a year ago, or even, I have anxiety. So sometimes psychological limitations are what they tell me about. So when they're there in person, I go over to them and I say, nice to see you. I see that so-and-so helped you figure out how to tie your belt. That's great. Let me refresh my memory. And I try to do this in a private area of the door. Go take them over to a corner or something. Let me refresh my memory. I think that you said that your knee hurt because of this and that, and you suffer from anxiety, or or whatever it was. I review that. And sometimes they tell me more in person, or they elaborate on whatever it was. So I already have that information. And I've had a bit of a chance to talk with the person, so I've gotten a feeling for maybe what their personality is like, a little bit. Then, when it's time to start, before I bow in, I go up front, I bow to everybody, good evening. And then I make my announcement. I say some things that I imagine they would be expecting. Please, if you haven't already done so, please silence your phone. These days, everybody silences their phone before they get on the mat. Let's see. I'm drawing a blank here, but yeah, please silence your phone if you haven't already done so. If the movement feels wrong or bad or painful, please know that you can pause for a moment and come back in once it's okay. No need to get off the mat if that's the case. And also, for you new people, if it's your first night, please be aware that I might excuse you from the mat after 45 minutes or an hour and ask you to watch the second part of the class until I have an idea of how the training will affect you. And I'll check in with you the next day to see how you felt when you woke up. Then the other thing that I say at every single class before I bow in this announcement, I end with, also, I do my best to find the perfect balance between theory and practice when I teach. Some people find that there's not enough verbal explanation for them. Other people like the amount of verbal explanation. My intention is to create an intense yet meditative atmosphere. In order for this teaching style to be effective, though, it requires that you watch and copy. So please understand that I've created this atmosphere by design, and hopefully for your benefit. So let's get started. And then I go up front. So I've had much better luck with verbal learners not freaking out in the first 15 minutes. At my first maybe 5 years or 10 years, I wouldn't say that. And they would just totally freak out. Sometimes people would get off the mat. Like when I came back from Japan, I didn't talk at all. I rarely spoke during my class. And when I did, sometimes I spoke Japanese. I didn't realize I was speaking Japanese. So new people would just be like, oh my God. And they'd get off the mat and go home. I'd never see them again. And people, would misunderstand and think they were being mean to them. And here I thought I was giving them this great gift, the chance to get out of their head after a full day of work and just move and sweat. Anyway, so let me give you a couple of examples here, different types of learners. So I'll give you the positive. One of the examples, one night we finished training, and there was a guy standing at the door who had been watching the class. And one of my students went over to him and said, "Hi, can I help you?" And the guy didn't catch what Nick said. He said, "Sorry, I'm deaf." And I'm wondering, if I can do this class. Is this something that a deaf person can do? And so then Nick started talking like this so he could read his lips more easily. And Nick said, "Oh, that's perfect. Our teacher never talks." So, yeah. And then Richard saw that everybody was sweaty, and he was like, "Okay, I'll give it a try." Richard turned out to be an incredible student. He watched me like a hawk. He was athletic and fit enough that I could throw him a lot, so he got a lot of chances to sense what I was doing, to feel what I was doing. So, Richard was absolutely not a verbal learner. He couldn't be. Then I had another student who came in, and I did this same announcement that I do nowadays, "Hey, I try not to talk too much when I teach, and this is for your benefit, blah, 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 so please understand." Blah, blah, blah. Again, incredibly helpful. Everybody's like, I haven't had a student walk off the mat before I asked them to get off the mat in years and years and years now. Anyway, so just about a year ago or so, I did have this person who, I think it might have been partly because there wasn't much verbal explanation. I think she had a panic attack on her first night. I'm not quite sure. But she was having trouble getting breath, and her complexion changed. She suddenly got very pale. And I said, "Oh, perfect, perfect. Just come over here." I could tell that she was heading towards her shoes, heading towards the edge of the mat. I said, "Just sit down right over here." And I said, "Okay, close your eyes and breathe like this, and open your." Actually, I guess I didn't say close your eyes at first. It's like, do this. I showed Shinko-kyu. And so she started doing it with me. Luckily, I could keep her from getting off the mat. And so I'm over in the corner with her, doing Shinko-kyu with her and coaching her through Shinko-kyu, like, take a deep breath and hold it as long as you can. Now let it out as slowly as you can. And so that's perfect. That's perfect. And this is only like 15 minutes into the class. And I had a very small group that night. I might have only had one other person. At the most, I had 2 or 3. And if memory serves, I think I went into Kokyu Ho at that point, incorporating Shin-Kokyu in Kokyu Ho. And again, this is like 20 minutes into class. And of course, the typical timing for Kokyu Ho is at the very end of class. I know that sometimes, a teacher will inject that into the beginning or the middle of the class, but typically it's the end of the class. But anyway, so she did fantastic just in the fact that she did not get off the mat. And after, I think, 45 minutes or something, then we went into different techniques, of course, very slowly, very carefully, very cautiously. But I was able to keep the class pretty quiet. I was able to continue teaching without talking much. And I think then I said at about 45 minutes or 1 hour, I said, "Fantastic first class. I'm going to keep going with these other students, but I'd like for you to let me know tomorrow morning how you feel when you wake up. Please text me. And you're welcome and encouraged to get changed and watch the rest of the class." And pretty sure she did that. Anyway, so these are two opposites, right? There's Richard, who's deaf, and so, hey, I teach without talking, and he's like, "Phew, fantastic, dream come true for him, And then this other student who, I think she wanted more more verbal instruction. And then there's another student who's done a lot of my online courses who says straight up front, you know, she's a black belt now. She's not one of my students. She trains at a different dojo. But she's completely upfront about the fact that she is a verbal learner, and I think a written learner as well. And she's very uncomfortable not talking about, you know, you put your right foot here and then you put your hand like this and you do this and you do that. And her instructor encourages her to get out of that mindset. And she's been working on it, but it does not come naturally to her. This is a very interesting thing for me because I'm a very tactile learner, somewhat visual learner. But yeah, kinesthetic and tactile. So what's necessary is your judgment. You've got to be sensitive to these new people coming in. And if you say like, oh, well, I'll just, you know, do a lot of explaining in all of my classes, well, then you're probably going to lose the students like me, frankly. You know, when I was a white belt, I moved a couple times to different cities and I would try out the different dojos. And my criteria was simple. If I had a sweaty dogi by the end of the night, that was the dojo I was going to join. If I didn't have to wash my dogi when I went home, I was going to keep looking for a different dojo. So anyway, you'll lose people like me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've got some bad qualities. But anyway, judge those people. And you don't want to take them too far out of their comfort zone too soon. And I do recommend that you start off the class with that kind of introduction that I told you about, where you explain that this is the way I teach and this is the reason why I do it that way. And if you're uncomfortable, here are some tips. You know, that's the other thing I say. If you're uncomfortable with it, just look around, see what other people are doing and keep moving. But if something hurts, stop. So be sensitive and judge people, keep an eye on them. The other thing, you've got to establish this culture among your students. If you want to create an experiential atmosphere, an experiential experience in your dojo, it's got to be a group effort. So you can't just be silent and then have all these side conversations going on all over your dojo. So again, all roads, if you've looked at a few of my videos, all roads lead back to this one phrase. You got to train in with your students. If you train in with them and you train in silently without like verbally analyzing everything, just keep on moving, then they will copy your training ethic, your training style. So the other thing to remember is that when you are training in with your students, you want to show that it's possible to teach through ukemi. So of course, sometimes we want to just be heavy so that we provide resistance to nage, so that they have to work through it and search for it, but certainly not on the first night without some hints. So you want to teach that there's a way of teaching without talking. There's a way of pushing that new person's hands this way and throwing yourself throwing yourself, whatever it is, shihonage, tenchinage, whatever. And of course, at a certain point, that gets heavier and heavier and heavier, but not on the first night, not on the second night. So, in summary, I hope you found this helpful. Making your classes experiential can be challenging because some learners aren't comfortable with this learning style at first, but the benefits will be worth it. By making your classes experiential, you'll notice that your students won't simply be successfully executing a technique. Instead, they'll be figuring out how and then executing. So they'll be surprised by their own ability, and therefore they'll feel empowered and as though they've really achieved something. Again, another benefit, they'll have a better chance of advancing to a higher level, because instead of just memorizing techniques, they'll be learning principles, and those principles, they'll be able to apply them to various situations. Another benefit, the class will have a meditative yet intensive atmosphere. So people won't be standing around discussing. Instead, they'll be moving and feeling. And the fourth benefit is that they'll learn more deeply. The learning will be more on a subconscious level, and therefore they'll be able to access and execute those principles more, or apply the principles more quickly and smoothly. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments section below what you struggle with the most. Do you strive to create an experiential atmosphere in your dojo? Do you have any people who are chronic explainers in your dojo? Or any other questions you have for that matter, just leave them in the comments section. Again, I'd like to offer you my free gift, my teacher training checklist, the 3 golden rules of teaching martial arts, to help you gain confidence as an instructor, encourage your students, and reduce stress around teaching and managing your dojo. So just click on the link below, or type in leahsuzuki.com/golden rules. It's leah-suzuki.com/golden-rules. All right, thanks so much for joining me. See you next time. Bye-bye.